Now, with the recent interest rate hike bringing rates to a 14-year high of 11.25%, already indebted South African families will need to take extra caution when looking for unnecessary debt this long weekend. Debt has increasingly become a part of household survival here in South Africa, and more than half of the South African households owe debt. National Debt Advisor says the temptation of people wanting to take out debt to enjoy the long weekend is high, but consumers must think twice. Quinton Ramohlabi joins us this evening he's the quality insurer at the National Debt Advisors. Thank you very much for joining us. Tell us a little bit, before we get into some of the behaviors that you are seeing as an organization, the impact of those interest rates on debt that people already have, and for those who are looking to incur new debt.
Well, basically what has been happening currently is that with this high interest rate that has been, affecting the debts, what is happening is that the debts have become more expensive now, which basically means that a lot of South African consumers, they are unable to repay back their debts due to the higher interest rate, which basically leads to the increase of installments into their debts. And that thing, it is automatically causing them to default or not to pay their payments on time due to the fact that they are unable to repay back of their debts because of the higher interest rates that has been increasing for the past 3 years of COVID-19. So that's basically what has been happening in general.
And you'll be able to tell us this a little bit more in detail, in that households are increasingly relying on debt to get by, but that burden is now weighing on households where they are faced with the trouble of not being able to meet those debt obligations, and on the other hand needing the debt to survive. What exactly have you seen in terms of a trend here as the National Debt Advisors?
Well, basically, as National Debt Advisors, we recently ascertained that most of the South African consumers who are recently under debt review, looking for assistance, of course, to repay back their debts, well, they tend to use their credit cards in the benefit of meeting their monthly expenses, like, for instance, groceries, and, of course, paying their debts, to using their credit cards to pay their debts, which basically it is automatically increasing the outstanding balance. And, of course, the interest rate has been accumulating more constantly monthly basis because these consumers, they don't have enough monthly now income due to the higher interest rates, and of course the debts, and of course household expenses, they become more expensive to them and they are unable to repay or to afford. So it's something that needs to be taken into consideration, and that has been happening constantly, that as National Debt Advisors, we encourage and of course try to assist the consumers not to utilize their credit in terms of buying or purchasing any unnecessary needs or want. Perhaps you can say that perhaps maybe they can use the credit card when they have to purchase maybe a big assets, like, for instance, maybe you can refer to vehicle or a bond. So that's basically what us as National Debt Advisors, we've been coming across, seeing that the household's income and of course the expenses, they decreasing due to the fact that people are unable to afford to pay back their debts. So basically that is what has been happening constantly now.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you're indicating to us that we shouldn't be using debt to get by, which is absolutely true. And at the same time, we should be finding some form of disposable income to then get by and save. And South Africa is known not to be a saving nation. How do you then take on those principles in terms of the relationship that we have as South African consumers have with money, and pass that on to, colleagues, family members, and so that I don't know if we could ever get out of this particular vicious cycle, but so that we don't leave the generations to come with burdens that we created ourselves?
Well, basically, as an responsible person or as an adult, it is the duty, of course, to highlight or to inform the youth that it is not healthy to rely on credit in order for them to repay back their debts. And of course, that is going to assist them. And what is most important that you need to share with the youth is that you need to tell them budgeting is very important, of course. Not everybody is well aware or having the financial literature. So as the hold people who did mistakes already by not being able to, of course, utilize their credit facilities accordingly. They should share those kind of tips to the youth in order for them to do not fall for the same trap of becoming over indebted unnecessary, or due to the fact that they want to purchase unnecessary needs or spending recklessly in general. So, and secondly, also, this is very important and unfortunate part is that the youth is not aware of, or maybe the people who are currently in the situation whereby they are drowning into debts, they couldn't find an opportunity to save. So what I would also recommend is that the youth should also be informed how important savings it can be for their future, and of course it's going to benefit them whenever they need something else. Like for instance, they can utilize their savings funds in order for them to pay their studies, which basically it is an investment on the other side. So that is basically what needs to be discussed with the youth and share these techniques, because we don't want to rely making the same mistakes or seeing that the country as in the whole country as a whole is still stuck in the situation whereby we can't be able to manage our finances, or perhaps maybe we're not financial literate due to the fact that we were unable to get this information. So that's basically what is happening.
Quinton Ramohlabi, thank you very much. It's easier said than done, given the situation that many South Africans, young and old, find themselves in. But let's hope they heed that call and enjoy the Easter without needing to take any debt out for it. And that's the quality insurer, Quinton Ramohlabi at the National Debt Advisors.